What would you do if the person you loved most asked you to step back from a moment that could change everything? For James Carter, that question wasn't hypothetical. It was a quiet Tuesday evening, the kind where the world feels soft and unassuming, when his wife, Emily, dropped the bombshell. They sat at their small kitchen table, the remnants of dinner still between them, when she looked up, her eyes heavy with something unspoken. "James," she said, her voice steady but edged with a tremor, "I don't want you at Sarah's wedding." James froze, his fork hovering mid-air. Sarah, Emily's younger sister, was getting married in 2 weeks. The wedding had been the talk of the family for months, endless discussions about dresses, flowers, and guest lists. James had been part of every plan, every late-night debate over seating charts. He'd even helped Sarah pick out the music for her first dance. So why, now, was Emily pushing him away from the one event that meant so much to her family? He set his fork down, searching her face for answers. Emily's gaze dropped to her plate, her fingers twisting the napkin in her lap. "It's complicated," she murmured. "It's about family. You don't need to be there. It's better this way." Her words were vague, but they carried a weight that pressed against his chest. James wanted to argue, to demand an explanation, but the look in her eyes stopped him. It wasn't anger or indifference, it was fear. The next morning, James woke with a knot in his stomach. Emily was already gone, leaving a note about an early meeting. He sat on the edge of their bed, staring at the empty space where she should have been. He loved Emily fiercely, had since the day they met at a rainy bookshop 5 years ago. They'd built a life together, one filled with quiet moments and shared dreams. But this felt like a crack in the foundation, and he didn't know how to fix it. He spent the day distracted, replaying her words. Why didn't she want him there? Was it something he'd done? Something about Sarah? The questions gnawed at him, but Emily's silence offered no clues. By evening, he'd made up his mind. He wasn't going to sit this out. Not because he wanted to defy her, but because he needed to understand. He needed to show her he was still in this, no matter what. That's when he found it, an old envelope tucked in the back of his desk drawer. It was worn at the edges, the paper slightly yellowed, but the words inside were as clear as the day he'd written them. An invitation, not to Sarah's wedding, but to something far more personal. A vow he'd made to Emily long before they were married, a promise he'd kept secret until the right moment. He smiled, a quiet resolve settling over him. If Emily wouldn't let him into her world, he'd invite her back into his. The next few days were tense. Emily was distant, her smiles forced, her conversations clipped. James didn't push, but he watched her closely, noticing the way her shoulders tensed whenever Sarah's wedding came up. He tried to bring it up once, casually, over coffee. "Is everything okay with Sarah?" he asked, keeping his tone light. Emily's cup paused at her lips, and for a moment, he thought she might open up. But she only shook her head. "It's fine, James. Just let it go." He didn't. Instead, he reached out to Sarah. They'd always gotten along, sharing a love for old jazz records and bad puns. When he called, her voice was warm but strained. "James, I'm glad you called," she said, then hesitated. "Emily's been weird about the wedding. I don't know why. She keeps saying it's about family, but I don't get it." Sarah's confusion mirrored his own, but she didn't have answers either. "Just come, okay? I want you there." That's when the twist came, unexpected and sharp. While grabbing coffee with an old friend, Mark, James mentioned the situation in passing, expecting a laugh or a shrug. Instead, Mark's face darkened. "Wait," he said, leaning forward. "Emily told you not to go? That's odd." Mark shifted uncomfortably, then lowered his voice. "Look, I wasn't supposed to say anything, but I overheard something at a family gathering last year. Emily's mom, she's been holding a grudge against you. Something about you not being good enough for their family. I thought it was just talk, but maybe Emily's feeling the pressure." James felt the air leave his lungs. A grudge? He'd always known Emily's mother, Margaret, was reserved, but he'd chalked it up to her old-school demeanor. Could she really be influencing Emily to push him away? The idea stung, but it also lit a fire in him. He wasn't going to let someone else's judgment tear apart what he and Emily had built. The night before the wedding, James made his move. Emily was in the living room, scrolling through her phone, when he sat down beside her. He said softly, "We need to talk." She stiffened, but he pressed on. "I know you don't want me at Sarah's wedding. I don't know why, and I won't force you to tell me. But I need you to know something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the envelope, its edges worn but its weight heavy with meaning. "This is for you." Emily's eyes widened as she took it, her fingers trembling. She opened it slowly, pulling out a single sheet of paper. It wasn't an invitation to Sarah's wedding, it was a letter, written in James's careful handwriting. A vow he'd made years ago, when they were still dating, promising to love her through every storm, to stand by her even when the world tried to pull them apart. At the bottom, in fresh ink, he'd added a new line, "I'm not giving up on us. Not now, not ever." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she read it. For a moment, the room was silent, the weight of her unspoken fears hanging between them. Then she spoke, her voice breaking. "It's Mom," she admitted. "She's been saying things about you not fitting in, about how you'd embarrass us at the wedding." I didn't believe her, but I was scared. Scared of what she'd say, what she'd do. I thought keeping you away would protect you. James's heart ached, but he reached for her hand. I don't care what your mom thinks. I care about you. About us. And I'm not afraid of her words." He squeezed her hand, his voice steady. "Let me be there. Not just for Sarah, but for you." Emily nodded, tears spilling over. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I was wrong. Come with me. Please." The wedding was beautiful, filled with laughter and music and moments that felt like they could last forever. James stood by Emily's side, his hand in hers, as they watched Sarah and her new husband dance under the twinkling lights. Margaret was there, her lips tight, but James didn't care. He'd faced the storm and come out stronger. As the night wound down, Emily leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "Thank you," she said softly. "For not giving up." James smiled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. He didn't need to say anything. The invitation, the vow, had said it all. In the end, it wasn't about the wedding or the family drama. It was about two people choosing each other, again and again, against the odds. And as they stood together, watching the stars peek through the night sky, James knew they'd keep choosing each other, no matter what came next.